On September 28th, Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg basically complained that
we can no longer let the people in power decide what hope is. Hope is not passive. Hope is not blah, blah, blah. Hope is telling the truth. Hope is taking action.
She's right. Everybody is hoping that there will be more action and less talk. The situation is getting worse. During the pandemic, 6 friends and I Zoomed almost every fortnight to find solutions for more climate action. The result is this book, Buying Time for Climate Action, which is the result of a webinar that we held this February.
The book, Buying Time for Climate Action, Exploring Ways Around Stumbling Blocks, shines light from different angles of how humanity could deal with climate change. There is no one silver bullet. There is no one size fits all.
That book concerns a major shift in the sustainability debate from asking what is necessary to achieve sustainability to asking what is blocking the implementation of concrete solutions. The 7 principal speakers have outlined the barriers in their domains, ranging from food and water to epidemics and cities. The 16 other authors have thoroughly examined their remarks and contributed to the theme of the book from their own expertise and experience.
And what we hope to lay out in this book is a bit of a roadmap that shows how we can go around those institutions, go to the grassroots, ask individual groups of people what they want and what they need. And hopefully this would be a way to involve the institutions in a positive sense, not only to help solve the problems, but also to begin earning new trust in the institutions themselves.
Young people, our grandchildren, intuitively feel that humanity is in big trouble because of climate change. They demand action from our generation, and we find it hard to help them. Because our generation, at least in the West, has been trapped in the illusion that making plans to solve a problem is equivalent to solving the problem.
Climate change mid to late this century may ultimately render unsustainable both inland and coastal metropolitan areas and set in motion unprecedented population displacement. With 800 million people in more than 570 coastal cities at levels of risk by 2050 from sea level rise, and a similar number inland likely to be displaced by desertification, where will these populations find acceptance?
The first is the notion that the biosphere is already beginning to cope with climate change by evolving, as it has always done. And this includes the outbreak of emerging diseases. So coping with climate change by evolving means pathogens moving into new hosts and into new geographical distributions. And it's important for us to understand that human beings are helping pathogens with their evolutionary process.
The oceans play a crucial role in absorbing CO2 and producing oxygen. Keeping marine ecosystems robust and healthy is essential to fight climate change. We are mostly overexploiting the top of the food web in the oceans, but are hardly using the more abundant sources of protein in the lower parts. We're using too many fishing and fish culture technologies that are wasteful, energy inefficient, and ecological disasters.
For too long, we have been invoking innovation to get us out of trouble, willfully ignoring the fact that 250 years of technological and institutional innovation have got us into trouble. We cannot keep going in the same direction. We ask, therefore, what is behind the inertia in our societies that prevents them from changing rapidly enough to deal with the oncoming disaster?
That is that our major institutions have become stumbling blocks rather than solutions to our problems. They are too rigid and committed to imposing one-size-fits-all solutions from the top down everywhere around the world. This is not working, and the globally bungled response to the COVID pandemic shows that our system is not working.
Conflicts with stumbling blocks must be avoided. At best, such conflict would be a waste of time and resources, and we do not have time. At worst, it would make no difference, leaving humanity in an even more precarious state than it presently is. As the problems resulting from climate change get bigger and the number of people potentially affected increases, there is a growing urgency for grassroots actions and initiatives to find new ways to cope with the problem.
So the transitions required in the coming decades are truly unprecedented. And unless planning and capacity building begins soon, humanity is unprepared to deal with the climate-triggered displacement and resettlement at this scale. We must now better predict and prepare, not waiting till 2050 and beyond, when levels of chaos from displaced multitudes become unmanageable.
To buy time in times of climate change, humanity must become more water resilient and manage its water better. Management of the resources, management of the water uses, and management of trust and emotions of the humans affected by water management decisions.
Reducing fishing intensity and lowering energy use is simply said, but has proven difficult to do. To be more realistic and politically acceptable, it needs to balance multiple factors: social, cultural, financial, and equity considerations, but also technology limits, risks, and the already mentioned externalities. Whatever you do, reduce uncertainty and risk for all stakeholders, big and small, and seek real fairness in the distribution of the cost, losses, and risks when making changes.
Grassroots initiatives allow actions to be taken quickly. This is because the actions are done at a local scale where essential goals like circularizing economies can be reached most cost-effectively. There is already a global collection of grassroots initiatives to be used as templates. Some are more effective than others. We must learn from them.
But increasingly, the world is changing. The world is becoming more aware because of more forest fires, hotter weathers, more natural disasters. All these suggest that we need to act now.
It is not climate change that we should talk about, but climate emergency. We should talk about political nerve, not political will. It is the nerve to tell people what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. To tell people the bad news and to assert a bold vision for effective action, which means being proactive.
I learned from writing and contributing to this book that resilience can only be achieved by accepting and learning from the local people and their knowledge, built up over centuries, then incorporated this knowledge into designing locally relevant solutions.
But most of all, our conclusion was that actually there is a lot of technical know-how that can actually work on climate change. This book will help you, and we hope you will be able to read it and give us our feedback on where we can move better on climate action. Thank you very much.